thing. It's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
You're out your league.
Shush.
Yeah, shut up, cat.
This will come as quite a shock to my crewmates and to NASA, but I'm still alive.
You will ride eternal, shining and chrome.
Chewie, we're home.
Oh man, now that we've had an in-depth conversation about what qualifies as genre cinema.
Anyhow, to answer that question, because we never did finish.
Oh, okay.
In Ian Fleming's books,
Okay.
there are no sci-fi elements, therefore James Bond is not sci-fi.
But some of the films are.
Some of the films are, and we can take that by film basis.
But Bond himself is not a genre element.
Right.
Unlike Batman, which exists in a sci-fi world, therefore he is a sci-fi element.
Correct.
I'm glad we settled that.
All Batman films are genre films, but not all James Bond films are.
And that's
genre
why
films.
Spectre isn't nominated for anything tonight. Just yesterday, they announced the nominees for the Oscars. The timing happened to work out because today is the day of our award show.
I agree.
Yeah, it's the first show in January. We're recording this late, like we always do. It's the Phantom Awards. The 14th annual Golden Phantom Awards. The best in science fiction, horror, and fantasy cinema for 2015.
Which, for the fans that actually give a shit about the show, it's the third annual for them.
Is it the third or the fourth? It's the 14th because I've been doing this on my own, strictly for my own amusement, for well over a decade at this point, which seems impossible.
Yeah, I remember the first time you did this with me, and I was like, but what, I don't get to vote on it?
14 years later, you're asking the same question.
I just feel like it's too one-sided that way.
That's entirely the point.
People should be able to make an argument.
That's nice. I agree with you technically.
I know, but then you still want me to sit here and read off the list and fiddle with the fucking fucks.
Fiddle with the fucking fucks, yeah, the envelopes that I make up, which are just a piece of paper folded. This year's best sci-fi, horror, fantasy films as determined by me. Don't think that you didn't have a little bit of input, and you've actually seen more movies this year than you have in years past. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Unlike the Oscars, the Phantoms don't go on for 6 hours. We try to
Feels like it.
Shut up. We're doing something different this year.
Does that hurt you? Does it hit you in the feels to do something a little different?
It does. Close your eyes and pick something.
Best Supporting Actress.
Best Supporting Actress. What are our nominees for Best Supporting Actress, JD? The actresses that aren't the leads, but support the leads.
Malin Ackerman for The Final Girls.
You didn't see The Final Girls, but you would like it. Homage/parody to 80s slasher movies, where a daughter of a famous actress who starred in a slasher film back in the 80s ends up inside of her mom's movie. Malin Ackerman, who you might recognize from Watchmen, she was Silk Spectre in that. She plays the mother, and she's very funny and very sweet. I recommend The Final Girls. Definitely check that out. And Miss Ackerman is lovely and bubbly and funny. Second nominee in this category, Ana de Armas for Knock Knock. You and I were literally just talking about this movie a few minutes ago. This is one of 2 Eli Roth movies this year. His other one wasn't nominated. Knock Knock stars Keanu Reeves, family man who's left alone in his home for a weekend when, in the middle of a rainstorm, 2 teenage girls knock on his door, and he ends up, though somewhat reluctantly, sleeping with them. The next morning, the girls refuse to leave his home, and they make his life a living hell. And Ana de Armas plays the second of the 2 girls. Her character is the more childlike of the 2. She likes to call Keanu Daddy. If they hadn't already cast Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, if you could get past the accent that is, I think this actress would have been good in that part. Now, Ana de Armas is very unhinged, very creepy in Knock Knock, which is a challenging, interesting film I recommend. Hey, you've seen this next one. Our third nominee is
Jessica Chastain for Crimson Peak. The sister.
Tom Hiddleston's sister.
Flash lover.
Spoil the film, why don't you?
Well, I'm spoiling it.
She's kind of the villain in the film. Very intense. What did you think of Jessica Chastain?
She's what I liked about the movie.
I liked the movie a lot more than you did, I know that.
She's what I enjoyed the most about the movie.
You felt cheated because you were expecting more of a ghost story, and the ghost actually play a very small role in this film.
Yeah.
Chastain is definitely a highlight. She's very good as a unhinged villain. I liked her a lot. Their next nominee is Evangeline Lilly for Ant-Man.
She was good in that.
Tough. I like the scene where she beats Paul Rudd.
That's how you throw a punch.
I really need to buy Ant-Man. Keep meaning
I've already bought it.
I'm waiting for it to go on sale.
Why? Ant-Man is worth buying at full price.
Looking forward to her fully graduating into the part of Wasp in the next Ant-Man movie. What's our next nominee?
Raffi Cassidy for Tomorrowland.
Did you see Tomorrowland?
No.
Uneven film.
I wasn't going to see it either.
Definitely has some flaws, but I really like Raffi Cassidy. She plays the android, basically the smartest person in the movie, really. I'll spoil the film and say that she has a great touching death scene in this. A flawed film, but I really like Raffi Cassidy. She's very funny, gets some good action. She gets a lot of the movie's exposition, but she makes it work. Enjoyed her performance in the movie. And what's our last nominee in this category?
Krista Stadler for Krampus.
This was the grandmother in Krampus. Really liked her. Quirky grandmother. And
Really hoping for Ninja Grandma.
you're always hoping for ninja something. How she's both very maternal, but also somewhat ominous. She stands up to the monsters, too,
Yeah.
which I liked. Definitely a highlight of that movie for sure. So, who's opened the envelope first?
I guess me.
Okay.
This is a horrible letter opener. You're a fucker.
And the winner for Best Supporting Actress is...
Krista Stadler for the Krampus! Yay!
Cool Old Lady. We always need more of those in cinema.
I agree.
Next category is... Best Director. What's our first nominee for Best Director, JD?
Rodney Asher for The Nightmare. What is that about? I saw that on Netflix.
The Nightmare is not the kind of movie we would normally nominate. It is a documentary about sleep paralysis. You know how people who sleepwalk have a lack of melatonin?
Yeah.
People with sleep paralysis have the opposite problem. They have too much melatonin. And they essentially wake up while they're still dreaming. They're having a nightmare and their brain is awake. You're lying there in bed paralyzed and you're having vivid hallucinations. The thing with the Nightmare is they recreate the hallucinations that the sufferers of sleep paralysis undergo. This is the scariest documentary I've ever seen. I watched this movie right before I went to bed, which was a great idea. Anybody who suffered from sleep paralysis or night terrors, seems like something we almost all see is this image of a man standing over your bed, shadowy man standing over your bed, and that is but one of the very frightening, disturbing images created in this movie, The Nightmare. Documentary usually outside of our wheelhouse here on the Fan Awards, but this movie is just so brilliantly executed and so very creepy that I couldn't ignore it. If you like horror films and don't like documentaries, I would still tell you to check this one out. Our next nominee is
George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max Fury Road. Important movie this year. A lot of people loved this film. And I gotta say, we both enjoyed it a lot.
I did. I even watched it a second time, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time, if not more.
Fantastically edited, composed movie. It takes a lot to shoot a car chase and make it coherent, and Fury Road is essentially a 2-hour-long car chase. And the use of color was fantastic. The night sequences, I love. The visual design of the movie is fantastic. For George Miller in his 70s now, still making movies that kick ass. When Fury Road was in production, that was my main concern. Can George Miller still make a movie that hauls ass? And that certainly proved to be true. Next nominee is David Robert Mitchell for It Follows.
Oh, that's a good movie.
What do you think of the direction in It Follows?
It's a good movie. That's all I can tell you.
I want to point to the sequence where they go to the school to look up some records. Nothing overtly sinister happens in the scene, but the camera is slowly rotating through the school, and the music is mounting. It's an incredibly creepy, tense sequence, and nothing's happening. Tricks like that is why David Robert Mitchell did such a great job with It Follows. And you get to pronounce this Hungarian name.
Cornel Mondaricho.
Cornel Mondruxo. For White God, he's a Hungarian filmmaker. I'm sorry that we mangled your name so badly. White God is a movie about dogs revolting against humanity. It was one of my favorite films of the year. Incredibly powerful filmmaking. Most of the movie is about dogs, so there's no dialogue. Long stretches of the film. Shot from a low-to-the-ground perspective, the way a dog would see the world. It probably sounds overwrought, and I'm probably not doing it justice. Hagen is the name of the dog. Abduct it into a dogfighting ring, fights and kills another dog, and afterwards Hagen is looking at the dead dog. A dog can't act the way a human can. It's so powerful. The sequence that follows where he is running away and he's running down a road at night hits you in the feels, man. If you're an animal lover, you have to see White God. I know it's in Hungarian. I know that's going to put some people off, but look it up. Fantastic movie and fantastically directed. Our next nominee is Marjane Satrapi for The Voices. The Voices stars Ryan Reynolds as a schizophrenic serial killer who is commanded by his cat to murder people, and his dog tells him not to murder people. His dog just wants him to be a good boy, but Mr. Whiskers tells him to kill. Darkly funny, also disturbing in turn. I don't want to spoil too much, but the movie ends with a musical number, and it's one of my favorite scenes of last year.
Our next nominee is Guillermo del Toro for Crimson Peak.
Del Toro is a previous Phantom Award winner. He's the spokesman for all nerds now, or at least all horror nerds at the very least.
Yeah.
The thing I really want to draw attention to about Crimson Peak was the use of color. Most of the film is shot shot for a cool bluish-green coloration, except for the main character, Maya Wachowski's character, who's usually dressed in very warm colors, yellows and oranges, except for the red, except for the clay the house is built upon, which is blood red. Hammer movie gore blood red. And there's a sequence where Maya's character is riding an elevator into the bowels of the house. Blew me away. Really sticks in my mind as a fantastic sequence.
Del Toro's direction is great. The ghost stuff was cool.
May I have the letter opener? The Phantom goes to...
David Robert Mitchell for It Follows. Yay!
Yeah, it was good. Good movie. Well made. Well directed. You get to pick our next category. I think you got 2 there in your hand, buddy.
We already did Best Actress. No, we didn't.
We did Best Supporting Actress.
Well, let's do Best Ensemble.
Best Ensemble. The nominees are...
Avengers, Age of Ultron.
These guys have been working together for a while. We already know how well Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans play off each other, how well Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson play off each other. We should highlight the new additions to the cast. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, whose acting we've criticized before. What'd you think of him as Quicksilver?
I liked him. I think the accent was a little thick.
Really like Elizabeth Olsen. I'm a fan of Elizabeth Olsen in general. Paul Beatty on screen for the first time in one of these movies.
Yeah, which was fun.
The great thing about Age of Ultron is how it really brings together most of the heroes. War Machine's in it, Falcon's in it, Maria Hill, Nick Fury. They merely made an attempt to top the previous Avengers movie and make this one as big as possible. And whether or not you agree that they succeeded in that, well, that's opinion, but we can all agree the cast is pretty great in these things.
Yeah, that's one thing Marvel always excels at is their cast.
Usually. Next nominee for Best Ensemble is Cooties, delightful horror comedy.
Which I didn't get to see.
About zombie grade schoolers and the teachers trying to survive. Wonderful cast, Elijah Wood, previous Phantom Award winner Elijah Wood, as a main character who's substitute teacher, a horror novelist, and he's writing a book about a killer boat. Alison Pill plays the love interest. Love Alison Pill. Weirdly, Leigh Winnell, also known as the co-writer of Saul, plays one of the teachers, and there's a sequence in the movie where he says, as a child, I fell on a pipe impaled through my brain. Instead of saying the word, he uses the word carrot. Sometimes I use the wrong carrot. And Alison Pill says word, and his response is to go, word.
I get it.
Rainn Wilson plays the gym teacher, who is surprisingly entertaining in this movie.
The Martian.
Obviously, large portions of The Martian are focused just on Matt Damon, who we'll be talking about again whenever we get to the category. But the part of the cast on Earth is a fantastic list of names. Donald Glover is really good as a mathematician who figures out a difficult problem. Chiwetal Eljiofor.
Say that again.
Chiwetal Eljiofor.
Say that again.
Chiwetal Eljiofor.
Say it again.
I'm pretty sure I'm saying it wrong. It's the dude from 12 Years a Slave.
But say it. How do you say that?
Chiwetal Eljiofor.
All right, run that by me one more time.
Kate Mara, Jessica Chastain's in this too.
But who's in it?
Chiwetal Eljiofor. Anyway, great supporting.
Say it 5 times fast.
Great supporting cast in The
Say it 5
Martian.
times fast.
Next nominee for Best Ensemble is Star Wars Episode 7.
Hey, I wanted to say that one. The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. Everybody except for Adam Driver.
Aww. He was alright. It still should have been Jar Jar Binks, but he was alright.
We got to give props to Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher for coming back, Anthony Daniels for coming back, and we got to give props to some of the new additions: Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
They really weren't taking any chances with Star Wars, so they had a pretty loaded cast. Iko Uwais from the Raid Redemption's in the movie too. I wish he would have had more to do. Hope Iko Uwais comes back for episode 8. Our next nominee.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Our next nominee is What We Do in the Shadows, which is a hilarious mockumentary about a group of vampires living in New Zealand. Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords both wrote, directed, and stars in the movie as Vladislav. One of the funniest movies I've seen all year. You have these 3 ancient vampires who end up biting a guy. So there's this very new vampire in their circle, and he's an asshole. All the vampires are very neurotic. One of the vampires is in love with a woman from the 20s, and he has her picture taped to the top of his casket lid. There's a great payoff about the Beast, which is Vladislav's archenemy, of Nosferatu-style vampire who lives in the basement. See What We Do in the Shadows. It's hilarious. Fantastic film, fantastic cast. And our last nominee for Best Ensemble is
Z for
Zachariah, a movie with 3 people in it. It stars Margot Robbie, Chris Pine, and Chiwetal Eljiofor.
Who?
Chiwetal Eljiofor.
Say that 5 times fast.
We're gonna have to do this. Chiwetal Eljiofor, Chiwetal Eljiofor, Chiwetal Eljiofor, Chiwetal Eljiofor, fuck.
Alright, let's say it 10 times fast.
Z for fuck this. Margot Robbie plays a young woman who's living in a valley that is the only surviving place while the rest of the world has fallen into some sort of nuclear cataclysm. Chris Pine and Chiwetal Eljiofor play
Who?
two men that come into her life. And considering this is basically a movie about a trio of characters, it's very well balanced. I actually liked Margot Robbie in it. Still unsold on her as an actor. She's very good in this. Chris Pine, who I'm touch and go on, pretty good in this. Gives a deeper performance than maybe you're used to. Mr. Eljiofor is very good.
I have the envelope.
You have the envelope. Never mentioning Chiwetal Eljiofor ever again on this show. And the winner for Best Ensemble is... Did you get it?
No.
And the Phantom goes to...
What We Do in the Shadows!
Yes.
Yay!
The cast of What We Do in the Shadows. Alright. Oh god, I didn't mention the swearwolves. Our next category is... Best Song! Because YouTube are a bunch of Nazis, I can't use most of these for copyright reasons, so we'll go through these quickly. The nominees for Best Original Song are Absolutely Anything, from Absolutely Anything, very funny movie starring Simon Pegg and the surviving members of Monty Python. The theme songs by Roger Taylor, otherwise known as the drummer from Queen.
The next one is Shovel and Bone from Alleluia, The Devil's Carnival.
We're on record as being a fan of Terrence Zdunich and the Devil's Carnival crew. The first movie was nominated in this category as well, a couple years ago.
He's the dude, Niche.
Four Doomed Men Ride Out from Bone Tomahawk, very offbeat Western horror film, sort of almost opera-esque number. Fourth nominee is Nobody Is Gonna Die This Time from Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, which is a very strange slasher movie parody. You kind of have to see it to believe it. There are people being booped on the nose and turning into oranges, somebody being locked in a beef box and he cannot leave until he beefs. You gotta beef, man. The killer's called Motherface. There's a dancing robot, Andrew WK's in it. It's amazing. The theme song for every slasher movie should be this, because the characters are going on vacation and they're like, nobody's gonna die this time. And of course, everybody dies this time. Next nominee for Best Original Song is Bing Bong Song from Inside Out. Hey JD, who's your friend who's lots of fun?
Bing bong, bing bong.
Bing Bong being caught in the well of memories is the tear-inducing moment of the century. And then our final nominee is Tell Me from Lost River. If you're a fan of Saoirse Ronan, she sings the song, which is a very dreamy, romantic, nice-sounding number. The winner for Best Original Song at the Phantoms this year goes to... Absolutely Anything from Absolutely Anything. I liked the song.
It should have been Shovel and Bone or Nobody's Gonna Die.
Okay, select our next category, good sir.
Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, that's always a good one. Best Supporting Actor.
Is Chiwetal Eljiofor in this?
Oh, Chiwetal Eljiofor is not nominated. Our nominees for Best Supporting Actor are Colin Firth for Kingsman, The Secret Service. You know what I'm a fan of? This new trend in action cinema, where they take an older actor who's not well known for action movies
And make him a badass?
Yeah! Kingsman, fantastic action film. Especially a sequence where Colin Firth, the villain's scheme involves an ultrasonic wave that makes people homicidal. This badass secret agent is left in a church hate group, essentially. Westboro Baptist Church scenario. And he basically goes ballistic. Freebird plays on the soundtrack.
Yes.
He murders absolutely everybody in the room.
He doesn't murder everybody, but everybody dies.
And it is sublime. Colin Firth, stuffy British guy, not really the sort of person you associate with being a badass, but boy howdy does he pull it off in this one.
Oh, yes, he does. It's a good movie.
The fight scene in the pub with the umbrella is great as well.
Yes.
Okay, our next nominee.
Mark Duplass. For Creep.
Gonna sound like...
Oh, weirdo.
I know this is gonna sound like faint praise, but Creep is the best found footage horror movie I've seen in a while. It's almost a satire of found footage. A videographer is hired. The man tells him, I'm dying. I want you to videotape my last days. And the more time the main character spends with this man, played by Mark Duplass, the more disturbing his behavior becomes. It's a funny film, but it's also a very creepy movie. There's a sequence with a character named Pete Fuzz. You just gotta see Pete Fuzz. Mark Duplass is a director known for very touchy-feely indie films. Not really my style, but oh man, is he great in this. He's creepy and hilarious. Gotta recommend Creep for sure. Next nominee is Hugh Keys-Bryn for Mad Max Fury Road, otherwise known as Immortan Joe. Because in the future, words will get mangled, so Immortal becomes Immortan. Badass mask on.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I wish my oxygen mask at home looked like that.
What do you think of Joe? Mediocre!
He had great lines, but he doesn't really do anything.
Joe didn't make an impression on you? I thought he was a great villain.
Definitely got the presence of a villain.
Do not become addicted to water. Fury Road was definitely the most meme-tastic movie of the year. All year people have been shouting, Witness Me and Shiny and Chrome over and over again all over the internet.
Damn it, did I miss that craze?
Next nominee is...
Brian Morvant for Pod. That one was on Netflix. It didn't look very good, though.
The cover art is terrible. It's basically a brother and a sister go to visit their other brother who is living in an abandoned home and acting very paranoid. He believes that he has found a government biological weapon in his basement, some sort of pod creature. The rest of the family thinks he's insane. Brian Morvant plays the crazy brother. You know how sometimes people who are mentally ill are in movies and they're sort of cute and funny? This isn't that. This is a mentally ill person in a film that seems genuinely unhinged, genuinely dangerous to be around, yet he's also sympathetic. This being a horror film, as Pod goes on, you realize that he's kind of right about what's happening. Interesting indie film. Definitely seek out Pod. Next nominee is James Spader for Avengers: Age of Ultron as the titular Ultron.
He's pretty good Ultron. I didn't think he could pull it off. I thought his voice was going to be too wrong for the role.
Really? From the moment I heard that Spader was cast as Ultron, I thought, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I just love his delivery. Really gets to dig into that Whedon-esque dialogue. He was probably my favorite thing about that movie, I gotta tell you.
Avengers 2 would not have been what it was without Spader.
Final nominee is
Ray Wise for Digging Up the Marrow.
Hey, we met that guy.
Yes, we did.
Adam Green, the director of Hatchet, stars as himself, and he's making a documentary about this character played by Ray Wise, who's this weird dude who says he has discovered an underground colony of monsters. The thing that's great about Digging Up the Marrow is for quite a bit, you wonder if Ray Wise is crazy, if he's pulling everybody's leg, or if there's some truth to what's happening. And Ray Wise is great. You know, Ray Wise is a pretty great actor in general, and these are the roles he specializes in. These slightly off-kilter, but still very sympathetic and human characters, and I liked him a lot in this movie. And the Phantom for Best Supporting Actor goes to...
I have the envelope, damn it, let me open it.
Alright, you've got the envelope. And the Phantom goes to...
Mark Duplass for Creep.
Some movie I haven't seen, JD says. Definitely seek it out, though. Alright, I guess it's my turn to select a category.
Damn right it is. No, not that one.
Oh, well, you're talking about this is one of my favorite categories.
It's probably one of my favorites, too.
What's the category, JD?
Best monster, madman, creature, machine design, or concept.
I wanted to cover all my bases. For brevity's sake, best monster. So our first nominee for best monster, madman, creature, machine design, or concept is Chappie from Chappie. Did you see Chappie?
I saw a little bit of Chappie.
Uneven film,
I'd say.
But the part about Chappie that I really liked was Chappie himself. A very childlike, innocent, naive individual brought into a world that does not mean him well. A lot of the stuff going on around him I wasn't too crazy about, but Chappie himself is fascinating. And brought to life by Chartlow Copley. A lot of people were calling Chappie a dark, gritty version of Short Circuit, which it basically is.
The part I saw of it was.
Yeah, but what's great about Chappie is how they managed to convey so much emotion with this robotic face. And I really liked the design and how Chappie worked. And the film itself I was uncertain of, but I really liked the title character. Next nominee is...
The Hollow from The Hollow.
The Hallow is a Scottish...
I'm sorry, The Hallow. Call it a Hal or a Hall.
In the film they pronounce it The Hallow.
But what I'm saying is tomato.
The Hallow is a Scottish monster movie about a married couple and their infant child living in the woods. To put it succinctly, there are monsters in the woods. The Hallow, it's all practical creature effects.
Meant to watch this one, I just didn't get a chance
And the creature, it's a fungus that takes over the brain. They're insect-like, tree-like, they look kind of like zombies, gray and ashen and deformed. Things are growing out of them. Impressive movie overall, and the creature design and the creature effects were very good. Okay, the next nominee is...
The Indominus Rex.
And the Mosasaur.
Oh, and the Mosasaur.
From Jurassic World.
In the Oscars, that would have been 2 separate nominations.
Yeah, well, we're not the Oscars.
We don't have Oscar money.
That's right, we don't have any money. Jurassic World was a huge event back in the summer. It became one of the highest grossing films of all time. I feel like it's already been eclipsed, and there's been a lot of backlash. Say what you will about Jurassic World, but those dinosaurs, man. Especially Dat Mosasaur.
I think that's because you're a Mosasaur fan.
I am a Mosasaur apologist.
You know who should have been a nominee for Best Supporting Actor?
Blue.
Exactly.
Best dinosaur. Indominus Rex was the star of this movie. Go back and listen to the dinosaur episode we did back in July. I have some qualms about it, but overall it was a pretty cool creature. I like the white tin on the red eyes. Cool movie. Had a fun time with it. Next nominee is...
The Krampus and his helpers from Krampus.
What was your favorite of Krampus's helpers in this movie?
Ooh, I know what your favorite was.
What was my favorite?
The Gingerbread Men.
Oh, I love the Gingerbread Man. I actually think I like the Killer Toys better.
Yeah, see, I like the Killer Toys, too. More specifically, I'm a big fan of the Jack-in-the-Box.
I liked the Cherub Doll. That was fun. Oh, and the Killer Robot. But then again, the elves were cool, too, with the wooden mask.
Yeah.
And let's not overlook Krampus himself. Maybe my least favorite monster in the movie. They turned Krampus into an evil Santa Claus figure in this film. I would have liked a more traditional Krampus, but this nomination is as much for the Killer Toys and the Gingerbread Men. Krampus was some of the most fun I've had in the theater all year. And again, mostly practical effects.
Starting to see an uprising.
The filmmakers who were kids in the 80s are now filmmakers, and they missed that practical effect edge. So our next nominee are the mutated giant wasp from Stung.
I didn't see this one.
Again, another example of a lot of practical effects. And the thing about Stung is it's a 50s big bug movie premise with an 80s horror movie style. The wedding party is overtaken by giant killer wasps who sting people, and then bigger wasps burst out of their body.
Oh, ew.
Lance Henriksen's in it, because of course he is. And if you're a fan of big bug movies, definitely check it out. Very good creature effects. The wasps look like wasps, but they're exaggerated a bit, so they're more menacing. And our final nominee for Best Creature, Madman, Monster, Machine Design, or Concept.
Ultron and Ultron Drones.
What's your favorite version of Ultron out of the the ones that appear in this movie.
I like the in-between Ultron the best.
The in-between Ultron, the second version, when he's in the church.
He looks the most like Ultron from the comics in that mode.
I was impressed with how much emotion they got on Ultron's face. He has robotic eyebrows and lips, and it took me a while to like that, but after I got used to it, I really liked it. I think my version of Ultron is actually the very first one that appears. The mangled Iron Drone version.
I think it would have been better if they would have just gone with the stationary face.
I don't know. I would have missed a lot of the expression and a lot of the quirkiness that the face design brought to it, though.
He has the envelope.
The winner for Best Monster Madman Creature Machine Designer Concept is...
Krampus and his helpers.
We don't want to displease Krampus.
No, we do not. Alright, I guess it's my turn to pick.
Alright.
Best writing.
Best writing. They wouldn't have a movie without the script. Our first nominee for best writing is Clown by John Watts and Christopher D. Ford.
I've not seen any of these.
Oops. Clown is written by John Watts and Christopher D. Ford. Premise is a clown doesn't show up for a boy's birthday party, so his father finds an old clown suit in an abandoned house, puts it on, but afterwards he can't take it off. What's clever about this movie is it extends what's essentially a short film premise out to feature length quite effectively. It goes to some very dark, very humorous moments, darkly humorous moments you could even say. It builds an interesting mythology around its premise. In the last act it becomes a good old-fashioned monster movie. Check it out. Ex Machina by Alex Garland. Obviously, a thematically complex film dealing with issues of gender and relations between men and women, and the nature of artificial intelligence, the nature of control, the nature of media manipulation. All of these things are floating around inside of what is a very ambitious, intelligent screenplay. Spring by Justin Benson. Spring is a love story between a man who fled the United States following the death of his mother. He ends up in Italy and he meets this very attractive woman and starts a relationship with her immediately. The problem is she's a monster. Now, I don't want to spoil what kind of monster exactly. Needless to say, the film cooks up a clever way to meld a lot of different creature ideas into a single film with a very interesting, melancholic, romantic, sometimes funny, sometimes weird element to it. The Voices by Michael R. Perry. I've already set up what The Voices is about. What I like about the screenplay is how the film cuts between what Jerry thinks he's seeing and what is actually happening around him. There's a good balance of the disturbing reality and his more picturesque version of things. A really clever element is how the dog and the cat, despite being the voices inside of his head, also act like regular dogs and cats. Voices is really funny, but also sad, but interesting film. What We Do in the Shadows by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. Again, What We Do in the Shadows is hysterical. I mentioned the werewolves earlier. In the film, the vampires encounter a group of werewolves who are very congenial, thoughtful with their condition, and that's handled in a really funny way, and that's just one example of a lot of the really hilarious gags that are done in this film. I don't know how much that's the cast, how much of it's the writing, but needless to say, What We Do in the Shadows is a very funny, very sharp film. Final nominee is White God, written by Cormel Monpruvo, Victoria Picciani, and Cato Weber. I'm sure I mispronounced all of those. To describe White God as dogs revolting against humanity is maybe oversimplifying it. This movie has some other issues on its mind. It's not going too far to assume that the dogs stand in for any ostracized minority. The way the film intercuts between Hagen, the dog's adventures, and what's going on in the girl's life, I also thought was really cleverly handled.
Okay, I got the envelope. Hand me the letter opener, please. And the winner is Ex Machina.
Alex Garland. You massacred that envelope. Next category. Worst picture. Uh-oh. Have you seen any of these besides Fantastic Four?
Doesn't matter. I know which one's the worst.
You gotta talk about the worst before you can appreciate the best. Burying the X is the new movie from Joe Dante of Gremlins and The Howling thing. You're thinking, that sounds good, right? It's got Alex Daddario, who is gorgeous in it, but it's terrible. The movie I maybe hated the most out of all the films I saw this year. Guy's girlfriend dies. He starts seeing a new girl. Girlfriend comes back from the dead as a possessive, cock-blocking zombie. One of the most disgustingly sexist films I've ever seen. He has this Slavic Jonah Hill-esque brother who's banging supermodels. Really despise this movie. You have any words to say about Fantastic Four or Fotastic Four?
It's shit. Don't buy it.
As I've taken to calling it.
Don't even waste your time watching it. It's shit.
It's a misconceived movie in every way. Night of the Living Dead is probably the most dire zombie comedy I've seen in a while. I don't think I need to say much about the Jim and the Holograms movie. Vatican Tapes, totally generic possession movie. And Zombievers. Listen to our Attack of the Killer What episode. Here are our thoughts on Zombievers. The winner for Worst Picture is Burying the X.
Should have been Fantastic Four.
I almost didn't want to nominate Fantastic Four because it's so obvious a target, but it really was a misconceived project. Whose turn to select? Is it yours?
Best music.
Best
Did
music.
we do this one?
We did best song. The nominees for best use of music are Deathgasm, heavy metal themed New Zealand horror comedy, very much in the Evil Dead 2 mold. You'd like this one a lot. Plus, its soundtrack totally rocks. You like heavy metal, this is one you gotta see.
So tell me about the editor.
The editor is a parody of Giallo's pitch perfect Giallo style score. Your favorite actor of all time, Udo Kier, is in it. I don't know if most people will enjoy the editor because you really have to be a fan of Giallo's to get most of the jokes. I had a great time with the editor.
Hey, tell me about It Follows.
It Follows had a great score, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
It's very disturbing electronic music.
It's the boom, 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 boom. They got me.
Great way to raise tension. The next one, there's one element about the score you got to talk about, which is Fury Road, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
The guy with the flamethrower guitar.
The Doof Warrior. Whole purpose is to pump up the war party. How can you put a post-apocalyptic guitar player in your movie and not attach a flamethrower to his guitar? How come it hasn't happened already?
Well, that character would have been awesome without the flamethrower attached.
And the best part is the flame-throwing guitar comes in handy later. The score in Turbo Kid. Oh, I haven't talked about Turbo Kid yet. Great Canadian post-apocalyptic comedy. Another fantastic electronic score. Really great use. The music in White God is mostly orchestral and very powerfully, stirringly used. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen the girl on the bike running from the horde of dogs. And the use of classical music in that scene is very impressive. And the winner for best use of music in a sci-fi horror or fantasy film for 2015 is...
It Follows! Yay!
I think that was the definitive horror score for the year. It's my turn to select. I know what they have to be. They're the two major categories we haven't gotten to. Best Actor! The nominees are Jarrett Breeze for The Boy. Now, I want to clarify. There's a crappy PG-13 ghost movie coming out in a few weeks called The Boy. That's not the movie we're talking about.
Oh, that's the one I thought you were talking about.
The Boy was a movie that came out last year. It's the origin story of a serial killer. This is the serial killer as a 7-year-old kid. Boy living in a motel with his dad on the middle of nowhere, the stretch of empty road. Get to see him slowly become more sadistic. Rainn Wilson is in this, too. Very much a slow burn, very slow pace, but definitely worth seeking out. I really liked The Boy. Next nominee for Best Actor is...
John Boyega for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Yes, Finn. What'd you think of John Boyega?
He makes a very effective African-American stormtrooper. I would almost say he's a little defective, because he defected.
John Boyega, previously nominated for a Phantom Award for Attack the Block, liked him a lot in this movie. Very different from his part in Attack the Block. Very funny, clueless, a little bit, clumsy almost. Definitely liked him a lot. Next nominee is Matt Damon for The Martian. The Martian is, for long portions of the movie, just Matt Damon. Way funnier than I thought he would be. There's a moment where he's subsisting off of potatoes at this point, and he says, I've been out of ketchup for 6 weeks. He's dipping the potatoes in Vicodin. His interior monologue as he's surviving this barren planet is great, and definitely a highlight of a movie that I liked a lot. Our next nominee for Best Actor is
Ryan Reynolds for The Voices.
I mentioned how he's hearing his dog and his cat are talking to him. Ryan Reynolds also voices the dog and the cat. The voice of the dog is very doofy, I just want you to be a good boy. Why the cat is completely evil, as it is in real life. The thing with Ryan Reynolds is for a long time we didn't really care for him. I thought he was smarmy and annoying. But this is the beginning of the Ryan Reynolds redemption tour, because he's great in this movie.
I've never really had anything against Ryan Reynolds.
Well, this is a test run for Deadpool. He's playing a demented character in this too. Next nominee is
Paul Rudd for Ant-Man.
What do you think of Paul Rudd as Ant-Man?
Interesting character.
Hi-ho, Silver! I love that scene with Anthony.
He really makes you get attached to Anthony, and then they kill him. Bastards.
After the movie, I said, man, I really liked Anthony, and you said, I don't want to talk about Anthony. You were upset about it.
I was. I still am. I'm legitimately pissed off that Anthony dies.
Paul Rudd was great. I didn't know if he could pull it off, but he was fantastic. Last nominee is probably our favorite actor of all time. You might say actor is not the right word, but Arnold Schwarzenegger has shown some impressive chops here of late. I'm talking about a movie he made called Maggie, where his daughter is slowly turning into a zombie.
Poor little girl turned into a zombie.
Arnold's great in it. Way more pathos in his performance than you're maybe used to. We love Arnold, and he's great in this movie.
It's Best Actor, dude. That's you.
I get to open this envelope. The Golden Phantom for Best Actor goes to Ryan Reynolds for The Voices.
I was actually going for John Boyega on that one.
Well, he's going to show up in future Star Wars movies, so maybe another shot of the Phantom. The penultimate category.
Best Actress.
The first nominee for Best Actress is
Taissa
Farmiga for The Final Girls. Already talked about Final Girls, and this is the lead girl, the daughter. First off, adorable, and secondly, really funny, but also sardonic and low-key. Emotionally ties the film together. The thing that I liked about The Final Girls, very fun, but the thing that put this movie over the top was its heart. Kind of a sweet movie, too. Really liked her. Our next nominee is
Laurence LeBoeuf for a Turbo Kid.
Lawrence LeBoeuf, which sounds like a guy's name, but it's a woman. She plays Apple, the robot girl, the main character's love interest. You know how there's that term manic pixie dream girl for these impossibly perfect, endearing, perky girls in movies? This is the manic robot dream girl. There's a moment where the Turbo Kid improvises a weapon for her, because it's the Wastelands. They gotta have something to fight with. He ties a lawn gnome to a baseball bat and hands it to her, and she holds it into the air and says, "This is my gnome stick!" She is delightful. She impales somebody with a unicorn head later in the movie. I just absolutely adored Apple.
I see what they did there.
LeBoeuf is magical. She's effervescent. She's incredibly charming. The next nominee is Micah Monroe for It Follows. What'd you think of Micah in It Follows?
Actually, I wasn't a fan of her performance.
I thought she was great.
I mean, seemed too disconnected. That might have been just really clever acting. Maybe it was just over my head.
Think about the situation she's in. Endlessly pursued.
I will say that as the script progresses, she gets better. So I'm wondering if maybe it was a little bit of the writing.
The beginning scene, she's acts like a really down-to-earth, normal person. The rest of the movie, she's racked with fear and stress. I loved her in this. I'm surprised to hear that you weren't a fan.
It wasn't the right term.
Our next nominee is
Daisy Ridley for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
couldn't nominate BB-8 for an acting award.
Why not? He sticks a thumb up. He's acting.
The internet's other favorite character from that movie was Rey. She's pretty damn good. It's always exciting when you see a movie that has a young performer you've never heard of before and they really impress you.
It's pretty good.
Not to get too spoilerly, but it's been a month. Everybody's seen the goddamn movie. When she picks up the lightsaber at the end,
Yeah.
that was boss. Next nominee is Charlize Theron for Mad Max Fury Road. I think Furiosa might be the internet's favorite character from last year. Furiosa's pretty badass.
If NECA makes a toy of her, she's going to come with a detachable arm.
Where were the fucking figures for Fury Road? That's just insane that nobody jumped on that. That movie was so huge.
Maybe they didn't know it was going to be.
I guess not, but I would definitely pick up figures of Furiosa and Immortan Joe and Max. Yeah, I'd be all for that. What did you think of Furiosa?
She was probably my favorite character from the movie.
I think she's everybody's favorite character. Remember Me? Great one-liner. Tears the dude's face off.
The bitch goes hard. She's the John McClane of Fury Road.
I always knew that Charlize Theron had that action hero cred in her. Great to see a movie that really allowed her to cut loose.
Yeah.
And you were talking about good acting when they get to the quote-unquote valley and she falls on her knees. Good stuff. And our final nominee is Alicia Vikander for Ex Machina. She's the robot girl that's on the poster. A very good performance. And the great thing about Ex Machina is you really don't know if you can trust the robot girl throughout the film. Her alliances are somewhat ambiguous. Very interesting movie. Definitely a star on the rise. Very good. And the Phantom goes to
Charlie Theron from Mad Max Fury Road, yay!
Yeah, Furiosa gets to hold a Phantom in her robot arm and walks off with it. We have a couple of honorary categories we got to talk about here. The Lifetime Achievement Award. When I decided who was going to win the Lifetime Achievement Award months ago, we just lost somebody in the genre who meant a lot to me. We proceeded to lose 17 more people who meant a lot to me since then. 2016, you know what this is? It's the 50th anniversary of the premiere of Star Trek.
Shatner's gonna die.
We actually have multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards to hand out. 3 of them are posthumous. William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, Nichelle Nichols, James Doohan, George Takei, Walter Koenig, the crew of the Enterprise are receiving our Lifetime Achievement Awards tonight. Even if you don't like Star Trek, you have to acknowledge the effect it's had on the science fiction genre.
Who's DeForest Kelley?
Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one. And my God, he lost Nimoy last year. It sucked so bad. If we lose Shatner this year, oh man, it's going to be rough.
I'm waiting for Ian McKellen to go.
Oh, yeah.
That's coming. Gandalf can't die. He's immortal.
Ian McKellen will die, but he'll come back as Ian McKellen the White.
Oh, okay. I can handle that.
Our Rising Talent Award this year goes to John Skipp for Tales of Halloween. Tales of Halloween is an anthology film. Obviously, all of the segments are based around Halloween. Being an anthology movie, some segments are better than others, but my favorite segment of the movie is called This Means War, which is about 2 houses on opposite sides of the street. One house has set up this big Halloween display that's got cardboard skeletons, cut out tombstones, very traditional, very kid-friendly. Across the street, somebody else has set up this big Halloween display, which is a death metal music video. There are mangled corpses and pentagrams and chains.
That person wins.
This rivalry between these two people escalates to violence. It really shows you the different things that Halloween, the greatest of all holidays, the only holiday that matters, the different things it can mean to different people. And I really, really like that. And I would recommend Tales of Halloween overall, and there are some other good segments in it, but this was my favorite. And the Special Visual Achievement Award this year goes to a movie called Extraordinary Tales, which is an animated movie, and it's an anthology film as well, where they took Edgar Allan Poe stories, and they found vocal recording. They found Christopher Lee reading Fall of the House of Usher, and Bela Lugosi reading the Telltale Heart, and they animate sequences over that audio.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Pretty well done. Some of the scenes are CGI, some of the scenes are traditional animation, some of the scenes are paper cutout animation, and it's a pretty cool film, and it's really short too. It's like 70 minutes. Definitely check out Extraordinary Tales if you're a fan of Poe or any of the actors we mentioned. We have arrived at the final category of the night. Best Picture. The best sci-fi, fantasy, or horror film of 2015.
Okay, so the nominees are It Follows,
Mad Max, Fury Road,
The Martian,
Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens,
The Voices,
White God.
and the winner is...
Best sci-fi, horror, or fantasy film of 2015 is...
It Follows, yeah!
Yeah, It Follows, and it was a hard choice because it really came down to this and Fury Road. Really deliberated over which one to go with. And you said to me, Fury Road is getting some Oscar buzz. Maybe you should go with the smaller film, the independent film. Independent film is a passion of mine. I think Mr. Mash is right. You might have actually helped decide who won Best Picture
That
this
was
year.
just today.
Yeah, It Follows was definitely one of my favorite films last year. Fantastic horror movie. We're partial to the horror genre here on the show. And especially as an award show, horror is a genre that is usually ignored, if not outright dismissed. Oh, look at that. We managed to wrap up the Phantom Awards in 80 minutes.
Yeah.
It's our best time.
Yay.
2016, this is our 4th year. Wait, is it our 4th? It might be our 5th. We started in 2012. 5th year!
How?
We started in 2012, 2013 was our 2nd year, 2014 was our 3rd year, 2015 was our 4th year. This is our 5th year, dude.
Okay, well, 2012 doesn't count.
I know I say this all the time, but really, when we started the Bangers of Masher, did you think we'd still be doing it 5 years from
No.
now? Do you regret that we still do it?
Some days, yes. Other days, no.
Here's to another year of Bangers and Mash. Thanks to all our listeners. You really make it worth it. Here's to 2016. Thank you so much. Thank you. You like me. You really like me.
Absolutely anything and everything is true. Mad and bad and funny things, all there for me and you. Anything. Anything, absolutely anything for you. I would give you everything. It's in my power to do. Shiny, pointy, funny things. 1,000 pairs of shoes.